Welcome everybody to the Friday at 6 talk show. We are here broadcasting from the Pirate Summit in Cologne. We're live from Cologne.
The three keywords I associate with European Pirates Summit is well, fun, that crazy yard here, the what is it, scrap yard, and Cologne.
People will switch to open source software when open source software is as good as the incumbents. I mean, you know, you guys all cheered when I think you said Microsoft was irrelevant, which is frankly beneath the level of intelligence in this room. Shame on you, because you know, like they build the best office software in the world.
Fellow pirates, you've heard and said it yourself throughout the day. Winter is coming.
So, I want to welcome on stage our first two guests, Sitar Teli from Connect Ventures and Jason Ball from Qualcomm Ventures. Are you here, guys? Yes, they're here. Give them a big hand, come on. Sitar, take a seat. Jason, on my right, please. So, the aim of Friday at 6 is that we always talk with people from the startup scene a little bit from a different perspective. So, not always like the questions, okay, what does a VC, and isn't it like a little bit awkward to be a VC because people coming up constantly asking you for money, all these conversations. Actually today, Jason, did you see that people in the stage were asked, okay, what's your impression of a VC? And the first reactions were lazy, arrogant, not really willing to think along with me. And then I thought, okay, this is not the conversation that we're going to have, because actually, how much do we know from VCs? Do we really know these people, what their personal background is? And I researched a little bit on the people that are here now on stage. And for example, you, Jason, you are living quite some time in Europe, but you grew up in Mississippi. Is there a kind of an American story that nobody knows about, very personal, that you want to share with us? Because we're always honest at the Friday at 6 show. There are no cameras, there's no live audience. Give me a story that defines you. Back home in Mississippi.
A story from Mississippi.
Yeah.
Okay. Continuing with my theme of cycling. When I was 6 years old, living in Florence, Mississippi, I had a brand new bicycle. I had a nice banana seat, nice handlebars. And my mom told me, Jason, don't jump that pothole at the bottom of the hill, because you're going to crash. I didn't really listen to my mom. I got on my bike, full speed ahead, jumped the pothole, and crashed. Blood everywhere, head to toe. I'm laying on the floor in the bathroom, bleeding, almost to death. And my parents were discussing should they rush me to the emergency room and how bad I looked. And apparently I sat up and said, I look bad. Did you see my bike? I healed. My poor bike never healed.
And when did you decide to do it again?
Right after I healed. And I've got a skateboard cut here. I've also been to the hospital again for another cycling accident in my 30s. So.
But aren't you then way too reckless for a VC? Because, I mean, you're investing Qualcomm's money. I mean, a semiconductor like the size of a huge corporation, and then this reckless guy with this little bike investing other people's money.
So we're very careful with shareholder money. We don't invest it recklessly. Our returns profile is actually very, very good. It's top quartile performance.
You could pay for a new bike.
Yeah, I could pay for a new bike. Yeah.
You want to leave it at that?
I'll
You
leave
want
it at that.
you want to hear a childhood memory of Sitar?
Absolutely.
I'm so not prepared for this. Okay. I just say to Jason's comment, I think there's a difference between reckless and risk-taking.
Aha.
Right? And perhaps he was reckless cycling, but risk-taking is part of what VCs do. So it's actually part of the right profile for doing venture investments.
Okay, because
from that
how
perspective.
far should this risk-taking then go? Because he has now a scar from the left side of his chin to the right side. Is that the right way to go?
He's fine. I mean, you know, he's got to have that
I got a
beard to
beard
cover
out of
up,
it as well.
Like,
Because I couldn't shave.
You have a beard, yeah.
I couldn't shave anymore. So there it is.
So you're actually every day confronted with it.
But I've saved so many hours from not shaving.
Okay.
I don't
But
really
you
have a
made a
good time
serious
trying.
point, right? Because you want this conversation to go more into a serious direction, right?
No, it
No,
doesn't
you
have
want
to.
you don't
I
want.
just don't have a good childhood story. So can I
Where
get a
did you
different
grow up?
question? I grew up in New Jersey, Parsippany, New Jersey,
Okay.
which is a very suburban town.
Yeah, because
Jersey.
I mean, a lot of people perceive you as a European because you're now here active in Europe, but
Yeah.
actually you're a die-hard American.
Well, I was born and raised in the U.S. I left when I was 25, so I've been here for 8 years. But yeah, I am very much American.
Yeah.
For
Because
sure.
today you said actually, in comparison between the VC ecosystem in Europe and in the States, we've had only like 2 rounds, 6 years, 7 years. So actually, there's very not that much experience with VC money in Europe.
Yeah.
So you've seen in these first 25 years a lot of, like in the financial industry, a lot happen. What is still lacking, in your opinion, in Europe in comparison to the American VC system?
I think there's a few things that the U.S. has that it'll just take some time to get in Europe. I guess one is more funds that are kind of experienced in investing. It's kind of an obvious one. More angels, particularly more angels that are actually experienced entrepreneurs that have the money to invest. I think it'd be good. And then more second and third time entrepreneurs. But those are, I think, that's been true for a while, but it's increasingly, like on all of those fronts, you can see more and more, like second time entrepreneurs who, they didn't have a great big success for their first company, and they're still going for it. So I think there's been that kind of a small cultural shift, or at least with the current generation of entrepreneurs, like, and I don't mean that in any ageist way. Anyone from 25 to 50, 60, it doesn't matter. Just the people who are entrepreneurs now, I think they're less likely to feel terrible about failing, and more likely to actually be inspired to try again.
Yeah.
So that's a huge positive movement.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about Germany, failing is such a big issue and actually not talked about a lot, because to fail, it's miserable. You cannot get another investment because German investors often look at your background. So when you go bankrupt, you have no chance anymore.
Yeah, and there's actually some serious legal problems with bankruptcy, I guess, in certain European countries. Whereas in the US, you can actually go bankrupt and be fine, as many Americans do. But it's actually a good, on some levels, that's very bad. When it comes to entrepreneurship, that's actually a good thing, right? Because it allows people to take on risk and not succeed, but then try again.
Yeah.
And I think anything that kind of is a blockade to that is something that really governments probably should be working on.
You said something very interesting in an interview with the Next Web, where you stated that I could have done something entrepreneurial when I left Dorothy Hansen, but instead I went for a VC fund that was entrepreneurial, like the VC fund that I would have started. So can you explain what the difference is between more the classic VC and what you are doing now at Connect?
Sure. So the fund that I worked with previously, Doughty Hansen, was a fund that was part of a private equity house. So they had billions under management on the private equity side. They had several hundred on the real estate side, and then they also had a tech fund as well. But there was a very different investment committee structure. There is different sources of financing. A lot of the stuff you didn't have to think about or didn't have to work on because there was a lot of in-house support and infrastructure that helped you do that. Connect Ventures is 3 people, and it's just 3 people. So everything from fundraising to investing to finding our office space and designing the website, all of it is done by us. And so in that sense, it is like building a company. You have to think about what is our brand and what
How
kind of
does it
brand do we
define
want.
your investment strategy?
No, well, I don't know that the circumstances define the investment strategy. I mean, one of the reasons why we wanted to start our own fund is so that we had an investment thesis that we wanted to follow, and trying to do that within another fund just didn't seem like the right approach. Right, so,
So
there's several
it's,
things
it's
we
just
didn't
as
think
for
about.
you personally convenient that the structure is like that, and it doesn't really help then the entrepreneurs?
In some ways it can help. I think there's definitely negatives to it, right? We don't have, again, there's 3 people, right? So there's no support staff. So when it comes to entrepreneurs, they absolutely get our time, and there's no one between us and the entrepreneurs.
Okay.
But there's only 3 of us.
Okay, so you have more personal time, direct contact to entrepreneurs than other bigger VCs firms.
Yeah, but also means we can do probably less investments, right? So we can do 6 to 8 investments a year, and that's about as much as the 3 of us can take on. If we tried to take on more, we wouldn't be able to spend as much time with the companies. But if we had, more people, like if we had associates or something, we could potentially, but we just think that's one of the problems we see with the VC. And I was an associate, Jason was an associate before. I mean, we've been through it, and I think we see kind of what the problems with that model are.
Yeah, so Jason, you're now director of the European branch of Qualcomm Ventures. And I would say that many people perceive you as kind of the guy from this really big classical VC firm. Do you recognize or do you see what Sitar is saying, that it makes it a little bit more complicated, takes a little bit more time when you're part of such a big corporation as a VC?
So our venture team in Europe is only 2 people. So as far as headcount goes, we're actually smaller than Connect, despite the fact that Qualcomm is a very, very large company with a very large balance sheet. So in that sense, being complicated because it's a large company, to the entrepreneur, Qualcomm shouldn't appear that large or difficult if they're working with us, because it's my job to go to San Diego and find the right people and knock on the right doors and make an interaction with Qualcomm as easy as possible for any given company.
Yeah, so how long does it take before Qualcomm can decide if they make an investment or not, generally?
Normally 3 to 4 years.
And that's a short one, right?
Yeah, that's for our seed investments. For our larger investments, we like to take between 7 and 8 years to decide.
Okay, you want to leave now, or this was the main statement, right?
Yeah. So for our seed stuff, we can turn that around in 6 weeks. For our larger investments, I do have to get on a plane, go to San Diego, convince a 20-person team to make the investment. So the U.S., Europe, India, China, Israel, Korea, Brazil, convince all of them. Then I have to go upstairs and
unanimously they have to decide.
Not
yes?
unanimous.
Okay.
There's a 70% threshold internally, and then I have to go upstairs and sit across the table from our chair, our CEO, our CTO, our COO, and a number of other kind of high-level execs, and convince them that it makes sense to invest that $3 or $5 million of shareholder cash into any given company. That takes a little longer.
Yeah, I can imagine. But that's, of course, then also a larger investment and
Much
not a
larger
seed investment. So, and you're doing this also for quite some years. So although it maybe sound like a little bit slow, you like it.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I've been at Qualcomm 5.5 years now.
Yeah.
It's great. We don't have to deal with LPs, which is a thorn in every investor's side. It's shareholder cash that we're investing.
I actually quite like our LPs. They're pretty awesome, but we're unusual for a VC fund in that our LPs are mostly individuals, and we have a couple of corporates in there as well. So they're actually people that have worked either in the tech industry or not the tech industry, but they've often built businesses.
To be sure, limited partners are people who are not actively on board, but they do have a large saying in what happens. And sometimes they make your life miserable.
No. Again, this is one of the reasons why we have such a good relationship with them. So they give us the funding, but actually they let us operate completely independently. So every investment decision is made by just Bill, Pietro, and myself. And we decide, and that's it. And they don't really get involved. But so some of our, actually, in a few cases, some of our investors are actually potential customers for some of our companies, and so we can make an introduction really easily. Yeah. Or some of our investors are actually quite experienced at digital marketing or some other areas, and they can actually be very helpful mentoring some of our companies. So in that sense, we have kind of a different LP base, and it actually works really well. And so far, the relationship is great, and I don't think that'll change because it's really well aligned.
Yeah. So you left Dorothy Hansen with some early stage investments in, for example, SoundCloud, of course, like the pride of Berlin, so to say, going pretty well, right? SoundCloud now?
Yep.
Yeah. So now you're at this new company. You have to, you need some time for a new track record, so to say. You also did an investment, I think, in Undango, the Facebook web shop. Yeah. That's not going that well. What kind of lessons do you learn from that?
Well, I wouldn't say Undango is not going well. I just think it's early. It's still very early, right? I mean, what the investment in Undango was kind of predicated on social commerce, and I think that area is still quite open. So their first attempt at that was something through Facebook, but obviously they have the runway to run multiple tests in that area. And social commerce is still an area that's interesting and something that that we think. There is an opportunity to build a business in. It's just a matter of giving them enough time to find that. Yeah,
because the reason why I'm asking is, I mean, you do lesser investments because the team is also smaller, so you need to be absolutely sure because, also the fund is not that big. So the chance that, how big is the chance that you will survive with this fund for the coming years?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I mean, you have to do, like the investments that you do, you have to be really, really sure. You cannot, I mean, you don't even have, I think, 10 investments, right? So the chance
we actually have 10 as of this week.
Okay.
And we'll have 11 in about 2 weeks.
What was the latest?
So we haven't announced them yet, so I can't. There's two
please,
that they're going to announce later.
FridayatSix show.
Nope.
No, very good.
The entrepreneur decides when we announce. So, but one is in Berlin, by the way. And I'm not going to tell you, but because you actually haven't signed yet. Okay. But I'll be signing tomorrow. But yeah, so.
For the people at home, whenever there's something crossing that makes a lot of noise, then for the past 2 days, everybody went for as long as the train passed by, and sometimes very painful because it takes a long time. So we have to say a lot of times,
This is quite a long train passing.
This is probably the longest train that has ever passed here in Cologne during the FridayatSix show. We don't have that much time. Come on. There's a track upstairs. Okay. There you go. Yeah, we made it.
So the fund is 20 million pounds, and we did actually quite a bit of modeling around the size of the fund and what we can do for investments, and we know how much we can invest initially and how much we can reserve for follow-ons, and there's some estimation of how many of the initial investments aren't going to make it, and actually there should be not a high rate of failure, but if a third to more of your companies are not actually failing, you're probably not taking on enough risk. Okay. Right? So if you have all your companies doing really well, you're probably playing it a bit safe, or you're the luckiest VC ever. But generally, I think you plan it so that there are ones that don't work out, and that's part of the model. But actually, I'd say that a smaller fund is in a lot of ways much easier to deploy and be successful at.
But what's in the percentage that
So one of the advantages of a smaller fund is that you actually can write a smaller check. If you're managing a mega fund, you're $1 billion fund.
But they start at 200,000 euros. That's not small.
They who?
Connects.
Oh, that's really small.
That's
compared
a very small check.
Yeah, I mean compared to the size of our fund, 200, 300,000. It's a really small check.
Okay.
And that's one of the advantages of the fund size. If it's a really large fund, you need to be deploying 5, 10, 20 million on any given investment. So it definitely has its advantages.
Yeah. So growing up in New Jersey, I will try it one more time. Why do you feel uncomfortable when I ask you that?
I just don't have any interesting stories about my childhood, I guess. I don't know.
Not that you'll share in public.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it?
No, I really can't think of any.
Okay, not one story at Duke University where this one experience that made you the investor that you are now?
Yeah, definitely not. I don't really believe. I mean, maybe for some people there is like a life-changing moment. I don't think. I think you're generally the sum of all the experiences you've had in your life, and you know, it's as much growing up in New Jersey as it is having parents that were immigrants, as it is having, you know, a large Indian family. There's any number of things that have resulted in me being the person who I am. You know, moving to London when I was 25 has changed. I moved to London at the time that I did, and seeing kind of the way the tech industry was, and you know, for people who think it's tough now, you should have seen it in 2005, right? It was really different. You couldn't even meet with VCs. It was just very hard to. There was very little interaction kind of between the different parts of the ecosystem. There weren't conferences like this. In fact, their conferences were pretty bad back in the day. There were these super formal, very expensive invite-only events. And the tech industry has changed tremendously, and I think arriving in 2005 and kind of seeing how that's changed, that's why we were able to do Connect Ventures last year. If we tried to do it in 2005, I think it would have been extremely difficult.
Okay. I want to thank you both, Jason and Sitar, for coming on stage on the Friday at 6 show. Give them a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Of course. And like in any Friday at 6 show, we're also having a pitch. So I would like to invite the founder of Flying onto the stage to give it its best. You can not leave now, but later, yeah? Just stay for 1 second so we can have like a good transfer too. So the founder of Transfer is now going to give it his best and pitch on stage. So look into the camera. You have 1 minute, maybe maximum 2.
Right. Okay. Go ahead. Thank you very much for having me. Hello, everybody. My name is Panos Mayar, so I changed my name for this show. And I'm half Greek, and when I was little, I always had to fly to Greece because to visit my grandma. And at these days, flying was really amazing. It was the golden age of flying, the jet set era. And to be honest, flying has changed. And nowadays, it sucks really. It's not cool at all. It's a commodity product, and it's all about the price. And it doesn't really make fun to fly today. But there's hope because we found a new target group, the digital jet set, how we call it. And this digital jet set is always connected, always online, and they share their experience while they fly. And we thought it's time to create a new home for these people, and we call it Flying. Flying is an iPhone app for all your air travel. It's useful, insightful, and social. The useful part is an airline-independent boarding pass. It works with every airline in the world, so you have all your data available when you fly. The useful part is very nice. It gives you access to beautiful visualizations of your flight patterns with nice graphics and nice leaderboards. And the third part is the social part, which connects you with your friends and your families while you are traveling. And the business model is the good part about it, because it's a free iPhone app, which you can download now in the App Store. Just look for Flying. And we have premium features inside the app, which you can buy. But the best thing is we offer a service which gives you access to money in case you have a delay. So, for example, there's a new law in Europe which gives you at least 250 euros of compensation in case you have a delay of your flight. And we monitor every flight, and in case you have a claim, we send you a push notification. You just have to enter your contact details, bank account, and that's it. And we compensate you for every flight which is delayed. That is Flying, and I would be very nice if you can download the app. You can find us on Twitter. Just look for the Flying app or look for Flying in the App Store. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. And I would like to invite now our next guests on stage. Please give it up for Shira and Frank. Sorry for yelling in the microphone. Please have a seat here. Please. So thank you guys for... don't be afraid, I'm not going to ask you to your childhood memories, right? I mean, I didn't want to shock people, so I think I'm going to skip this first question. Or would you... don't you mind?
Well, there's no great story about my childhood, maybe.
I grew up in Southern California. I had a great childhood. I spent it on the beach with surfers. I have no complaints.
Well, I'm going to remember that and use it later on in the interview. Okay. But okay, let's start in a proper way. So, Frank, you're doing Do, but you're also doing E2042 Ventures, of course, Sold. I think one of like the major companies in Germany back in the days, like IP Labs, like to Fujifilm. You had a community of 300 million users. So that was pretty big.
Yeah, it was pretty big. So what we did is we built a photo platform where people could share photos, but also order products like a photo book and calendar and greeting card. And the business model was that we licensed that to the big retailers, like a Walmart, like a Carrefour, like Auchan and Aldi and Lidl, and all these big retailers gave us that reach. So it was a pretty exciting time.
Yeah. And then you made a big fat exit. You made multiple, but that was a big one. You invested in companies like Sechs Wunderkinder, so you actually built your product yourself with Christian Reber, the CEO of Sechs Wunderkinder, because you wanted to have this task issue solved. But now, and this is something that I find truly amazing, you still have sleepless nights now with Do because you want to solve that document problem.
Absolutely. So the problem was with Do, I wanted to solve my own document problem. In the beginning, it seemed like pretty straightforward and doable. But then, while diving into it, we encountered a lot of problems. So it's pretty hard to understand documents. What is an invoice? What is a contract? And while building the product, we saw more and more challenges. So lucky enough, we have an experienced team. We have great shareholders that had the passion to say, you have the time to get it right. And pretty soon we will announce a new version, next generation of Do, which I'm pretty proud of. But it were sleepless nights to get there.
But I have to be honest. 2 years in beta, 6.8 million funding. What the fuck did you do during this time?
You know, we party a lot, and no, honestly, Do is one of the most challenging and hardest technology parts startups of Europe that I know right now. It starts with optical character recognition, which is not easy. We have
time out. What?
So when you have a document and it's not digital, you took a photo of it, for example, and reading the characters and seeing that Frank is F-R-A is very complicated because things can just be a little bit wrong and we have to recognize them.
Because you want people to have their paper bank post that they got also to be scanned within this document stream, right? In the end.
Right. In the end, what we want is that you can ask questions like all invoices from the last 3 months. That's a simple question. Yeah. But for software, it's pretty hard to answer it precisely so that it's always right.
Did you underestimate the problem that you had to solve?
Absolutely, in many ways.
Did you disappoint your investors by that?
Well, you have to ask them. What I feel, and that's very good, it's Capnamic and Target Partners, they're just great. They have they're so cool, they let me build the product, they trust in me, so I have a very good relationship, but maybe, I don't know, maybe they're also a little bit disappointed, but they never told me.
Or maybe they didn't have the knowledge to do it better.
Well, that's for sure, because I believe we are the experts at what we are doing, but nevertheless, maybe they would have expected that things would be ready earlier, but I cannot tell you. But at least we're doing a very good job, but the problem is bigger than we thought in the beginning, and it just came out while building the product.
So Shira, thank you for last minute coming on stage because unfortunately Colette Balou didn't show up. Although we told her be here, Colette, but she wasn't here unfortunately. Shira, can you please explain us what it is that you do?
I have a marketing agency. We work with tech companies and startups and innovation labs, and we do all of the marketing. So that's marketing from branding to design to UX. We do marketing messaging strategy. We also do PR with a partner in California, front-end dev. We handle everything that you need for marketing.
Yeah, and actually I prepared for a talk about like PR, and then before the show started, you said, but I'm not doing PR, I'm doing marketing. Yeah. And often these things are like a little bit sound the same, right? Yeah. Because you have a startup, you have a small team, you do social media, PR, marketing, communications, HR, everything at the same time. Yeah. So what defines marketing for you?
Marketing for okay. So PR is very specific. PR is public relations and it's media relations, and that's when you're actually doing the outreach to the media. Now, a lot of companies also integrate social into that, But in my opinion, social is done in two different ways. It's done in a relationship marketing way, which is what I focus on, and that's in building a relationship with the customer, or building a relationship with the media, and that would be the way that somebody from PR would do it. And both of them, in my opinion, are completely valid. And occasionally, you'll have an agency that handles it both ways in one account. So PR is when you're doing the outreach and you're trying to get coverage. Earned media has a 40% trust rate, so it's really important for a company to get out there so they could get the TechCrunch on their homepage, and that gives social proof, so that will get them more funding. So when you have all of that, that's actually, and it's also the only way for you to get so much outreach in all these different directions in the very beginning when nobody knows who you are, that's how you get to the masses all at once, because you don't have the money.
R. Train.
Yes, train. R.
And you're also doing Uber, right? You're also doing the marketing of Uber?
No.
Was I informed correctly? No.
No, that's Colette.
You want to do the marketing of Uber?
Would love to do the marketing of Uber.
Right. Yeah, we'll sign. No. Please continue. Because you had a talk also today here at the Pirate Summit, where we are at the festival.
Yeah.
So what was like the key takeaway from that talk?
Okay, so the talk was a half an hour long, but it's normally an hour and a half. And basically what I did was I just sped through what I normally teach in Israel. And by the way, I live in Israel. I don't live in the States. And it was all about just basically making sure that your product is really good, getting to product market fit, and then the tactics that you can do in order to get your stuff out there and actually get known. Because when you start, you're going to launch and you're going to hear crickets because nobody knows who you are.
So this was also literally, you tried to do 1.5 hours in half an hour, but
I did
talking faster.
Oh,
also.
I did. Yeah.
Did it work out? Were you happy after today?
I think it did. I mean, I had a lot of positive feedback on Twitter and no negative feedback, and a bunch of people coming up to me saying, you know, I don't normally take notes. I actually took notes. I learned tons. It was awesome. Thank you. So
yes. That's the Pirate Summit, ladies and gentlemen.
It was
that
really
did
nice.
that. Yeah, really cool, because the audience is actually really engaged here.
Yeah.
I've experienced this myself during the last 2 days. R. So we're almost there. But Frank, talking about PR and marketing, I've received over the last 1.5 years, I think, 8 emails from you that said, "Dear Derek." So I really felt, okay, he's personally talking to me. But then you sent me 8 paragraphs with plain text, and I didn't understand one word of what you were saying. How much of your money did you spend on actually marketing? Because you're so big, such a big of a team. But I still didn't, before I started this show, I still didn't understand what you were doing.
So now you understand it?
Now I think I start to understand it, yeah.
Okay.
How much of your budget did you spend on marketing?
Well, on marketing, not much. But on text writing, we have a professional text writer. And also Mark and myself from the executive team are spending a lot of time in finding the right words, what we're doing. So the thing we do is we are the document app. So it's one place where all of your documents are, and you can find them in seconds. And sometimes there's technology involved. Sometimes there are partners like Dropbox and Google Drive involved, and we have to explain it. And I also see that in the past we were too complicated in our communication. And I hope that maybe already this week you will get a more and better email.
Yeah, because I mean, it's almost like I don't want to get too much under your skin, but you're taking it very positively with it, which I think is great. Yeah. But I mean, I wanted to understand it, but sometimes it's really obviously hard as a tech guy, as a product-focused guy, to really understand, okay, how should I communicate this to the outside world?
Absolutely. It's one of the things how you do the communication in a very clear way, like what is it? What is a new music experience? What is a new document experience? And finding the right tagline, finding the right claims, finding the right text.
So we do that.
It's like, it's like writing a beautiful code. It's
hard to do.
super hard. And we have sessions where we say who we are, what are our values, what is the most important thing about us, and we discuss a lot, and then we try to condense it in one sentence. And the new sentence I can already tell you is the document app.
The document. Okay, so some live feedback here from Shira.
Okay, so this is stuff I've actually done. And when you start to go into the messaging, the shorter the line or the shorter the phrase that you're trying to get down, the longer it's going to take for you to do. So a homepage takes like a minimum of 10 hours. You just know it's going to, even though it's only about 150 words worth of text, you know that it's going to take you forever to get done because you have to find the exact perfect words that really encompass everything that you're trying to say without buzzwords, without stuff that's not, that actually, you want it to sound, it needs to be real. And that's really difficult to do in words that are in a condensed sentence that's so tight that doesn't also end up describing a million other apps in the same space.
Yeah. Well, how did you like their payoff, like the document app?
That's right.
I think it sounds very concise.
Very concise.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good news.
Yeah.
Awesome!
Ah!
Arr!
Yeah, I mean, I would like to ask you the same question. So you go into a tech company.
Yeah.
They're like coding and this is amazing product ever, but they totally forget who they're doing it for. So what are the steps in this process that you take?
Well, a large discussion on who's the customer. Huge discussion on who's the customer, a look at the competition, competitive analysis, who's the customer, and then you do like user narratives, which is where you write out a full story of how the user is going to end up using your product. And then you go through the actual product itself and you figure out how intuitive it is to actually use. We do a bit on product as well and a bit on behavioral engineering. So that's going through and figuring out, okay, we're going to do this, but where do we want to lead them to? So just because you have all these different things on a page, you could actually end up losing the customer. You're trying to get them to go to one spot. Why give them a million options? Don't. Give them one. You want them to finish a bunch of tasks, give them a progress bar. So there are things that you could actually implement in order to make sure that the customer gets to where you want them to.
And how do you handle like the founder's wish, as always, okay, can we get it done within 2 weeks? And you say, okay, but I need 3 or 4 months and it's really important.
The thing about marketing is you don't know how long it's going to take you, because you don't know how the market is going to react to it. And in the beginning, you're not going to have product market fit. So until you have product market fit, which is, so product market fit is when 40% of your users can't live without your product, okay? If you were to disappear tomorrow, they would be really, really, really upset. This metric comes from Sean Ellis, who has a whole blog about the whole thing. And once you've got product market fit, then you know you could start spending money on marketing. You also have to watch your viral coefficient and and watch all the cohorts, cohort analysis. These are all things that you could read in the Lean Startup. So the viral coefficient is if you've got 10 people using your app, 11 people find out about it. So once you've got a viral coefficient of above 1, you know that you're fine to be able to start actually spending money on marketing. So until you've got these things, putting a lot of money into marketing it's basically, good marketing will kill a bad product even faster. So you don't want to get it there. You want to get to the point where you have a good product. And in the beginning, you have a lot of companies who are like, we want 2 million users in the first year. How are you going to get us that? And I'm like, you haven't even launched yet. Let's find out if people even like your product. And when they don't like your product, because they won't in the beginning, we're going to find out why they don't like your product, where you're losing them, how to fix it. And when we get you there, then we'll start focusing on getting you those 2 million users. Because until you focus on your product and making sure that it's right for your consumer, who are you? Why are people going to come to you? You don't matter. And that's what you need to focus on. It's not about getting mass users from day one. If you're Instagram, that is fantastic. If you nail product market fit from day one, awesome. Not so easy to do and impossible to predict.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. I really like this. This was straight talk. One last thing, Frank. Will you keep do.net? Because I know you wrote this open source collaboration like Microsoft.net thing, but will you ever go to .com or aren't you buying it?
.net is a programming language.
Yeah. No. It's a framework. Okay. So .net is a framework from Microsoft.
Whatever. I knew you were wrong.
So C# is the language that you use for .net. But
no, but I mean for marketing purposes.
So
will you buy do.com?
No.
Or never?
No, because the web is dead. So we are living in an app world, and if you look at Twitter, for example, we have /do. If you look at Facebook and so on, so we have in the important channels that have future, and also in the app stores, we are well prepared for DOOs, our brand. We also have a worldwide trademark on this, but we are not putting too much thinking into the URL. The website content, yes, but the website URLs, it's not that important anymore.
Okay. Because actually a lot of companies are spending considerable amounts of money on getting that domain. You think it's all bullshit, or is it only because of the nature of your business?
I believe in the future, it's for everybody not important. But now, for us, it's definitely not important because not many people will go through the web, but they will go through app stores. So they will search for something for the document app, for the music app, the photo app in the app stores and not in the web.
Yeah. And then really the last question, will you move to Berlin or will you stay in Bonn?
Stay in Bonn.
Okay.
I love Berlin. Berlin is great and it's really, really absolutely a hot space and it's a great city. But I'm just born in Bonn and I love the city and that's why I will stay.
Okay. You love it even more than Cologne?
Yes, absolutely.
Where we are now. Oh, okay. That's not nice to say. Shira, thank you so much for being on the Friday@6 show.
My pleasure.
And for coming on the show that fast. Did you like it, by the way?
Fine, yeah.
Yeah? Can you give me some more feedback than that?
Well, I like how you tear apart your poor guests.
Tear apart?
Yeah, you asked about a company that was
Well,
failing,
completely
and then
bullshit
you were
what you
just
asked.
like,
I mean, that
and
doesn't
then
make
you're
any sense,
going to
man.
him about if his investors like the fact that he's late. Have you built a product before? It's really hard to do, and it's hard to get right the first time. I mean, of course, it's you could have to expect delays, especially when you're building something this complicated.
Yeah.
And then you thought like $200,000 is a big check. I mean, you have no clue about the VC business, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also good feedback. This is the way how I would like to end a Friday@6 show because, yeah, you should be open to all feedback, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I will read up some more then about the VC business. Yeah. Sorry, some feedback from the audience?
Make him walk the plank. That meaning you.
Oh, okay. I will do that. Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for being on. And now I would like to ask everybody in the audience who has a question or wants to say something. You can come up to the stage, but you can also shout something. Is there any feedback so far on this session on the captain's deck? Are there some people who want to say something? Manuel and Till, you're almost at the end of the festival. Is there something that you want to share with us? Something that you want to say right from your heart? Because you've built up this festival for the 3rd year in a row. Is there some final feedback that you want to give?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So, this was the Friday@6 talk show. Thank you so much for watching. Next month, in September, we will be back in Berlin, broadcasting from the office of Norris Bank, the internet bank of the Deutsche Bank. And I hope that they've seen this show, because actually I'm doing always the same, but the sponsor contract is already signed. So, I hope to see you next month in September. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Arr!
Arr.
I woke up to a change of season, no reason to find, and I forgot to say I was sorry. No worries, no lies. I have a feeling that I'm in the right place. I see no junctions up ahead. So I'm reaching out to all the things that I knew and all the things I wish to forget. And as I move out, I'm not facing the ground. No, I'm not chasing clouds. I'm just standing proud, that's what I do. I sit and ponder about the road I'll choose, not the things I'll lose, or if I was used. I bought myself a one-way ticket. It's a note I'm willing to ride. And so it seems we broke out even, so I'm not giving more time. I have a feeling that I'm in the right place. I see no junctions up ahead. So I'm reaching out to all the things that I knew and all the things I wish to forgive. And as the troops march out, I'll make no sound. No, I won't think out loud. I'll let the small things count once more. I'll freeze the frame, but this won't be the end. Life will begin again, somewhere around the bend, towards someone new. I have a feeling that I'm in the right place. That's why I'm reaching out to all the things that I knew and all the things I wish you for. Give. And as the troops march out, I'll make no sound. No, I won't think out loud. I'll let the small things count once more. I'll freeze the frame, but this won't be the end. Life will begin again, somewhere around the bend, towards someone new. And as I move out, I'm not facing the ground. No, I'm not chasing clouds. I'm just standing proud. I'll sit and ponder about the road I'll choose, not the things I'll lose, or if I was used by you. Or if I was used by you.
Thank you.
I think of the time when our words were rhyme, when it was just you and me, and we were meant to be. I think of the time I broke my lies, and how only fools can see, and how that fool was me. I remember the day in which he ran away. It's got grasp in my mind. I see you awaken eyes. Things just ain't the same. My guts turned to shame. I'm still aching to find someone of my own kind to tell me love. You're the one to think of from the moment I wake. You're my sweetest mistake. I don't have to dream. I was stranded in one. I feel you under my skin. You become my only sin. How long must I wait to be blessed by fate? It's a long curvy line, and it never unwinds. Was I supposed to stay and put you out of harm's way? I saw you were drifting slowly, and all I did was look away. I wanted you to walk me down the steps I never took. Wanted you to learn my secrets, and read me like an open book. But I had to stop making believe that you and I could find a way. I guess we don't get a happy ending, but we both get to start again. You and I don't get a happy ending, but we both get to start again. You and I don't get a happy ending, but we both get to start again. She's acting symmetry. She rides the night next to me. She leads me to moonlight. I'll let her burn me with the sun. She's Sigma. She doesn't know what she's done. I feel your breath in my face, her body close to me. I can't look in her eyes. She's out of my league. I'm just a fool to believe I have anything she needs. Yeah, she's ugly. Look at the mirror, and all I see is a young old man with only a dream. Am I just fooling myself that she'll stop the pain? Living without her, I'll go away unseen. I feel her breath in my face, her body close to me. I can't look in her eyes. You're out of my league. I'm just a fool to believe she's like the wind. I'm just a fool. I'm just a fool to believe she's like the wind. I'm just a fool to believe she's like the wind. I'm just a fool. I'm just a fool to believe.